Insecurity is egotistical. Probably not the way you've generally thought of it. Some of you might have. But most people think that insecurity is kind of like not having enough of an ego or not having a strong enough ego. And I've thought that too. And sometimes I work with the energy that way. But another way that I work with it is to say that your insecurity, your feeling of not being good enough, all that kind of stuff, is actually very egotistical. Now, this isn't to shame insecure people who are trying to work on that. It's not. None of this is about judgment on that level. But the idea is that who is it that's being insecure if not an ego? Your spirit isn't insecure. Guarantee you, it's really not. So if your spirit's not insecure, then that kind of leaves your ego, because those are the main two things you have here. Now we could break it down into all kinds of other things, and your emotional body and your mental body, and But I'm just saying, let's say there's spirit and then there's ego. Ego is the identity of this lifetime, and spirit is the eternal identity. And the eternal identity, it doesn't really have insecurity. Okay, so if insecurity is egotistical, and for most insecure people, that would feel initially not to be very helpful. I understand, right? But the thing is, when you look at things in a different way, and if you can see things in a different way, then you change the reality somewhat. So, think of it this way. You're an actor. You're supposed to go on the stage and play the part of a handicapped person, of somebody who stutters, of whatever it may be. You might be a really macho guy, but you have to play a character that's effeminate. And if you're a good actor, you put your ego to the side, and you play the role. You step into the character. And if you can do that, that's really good for your acting. But if you stand there on the stage looking really uncomfortable about this role that you're playing, then what's happening is you're not giving yourself over to the character. You're not kind of channeling that character. What you're doing is you're obviously being you, standing there very uncomfortable about pretending to be this other thing. That wouldn't really work for acting. Like, you got to play in a mafia movie and you got to rough somebody up in a scene, and then you're like, well, I don't want people to think that I'm mean and that I'm violent. Okay, so what does that have to do with insecurity, the ego, the spirit, all that? Well, what it has to do with is that you are the spirit. That's the real you. And you come into a lifetime to play a role. And then your job is just to play the role. And whatever your faults are, let's consider those either authentic elements of the role you're playing, or they are inauthentic elements that you can change. And either way, insecurity doesn't really help. So if you imagine your insecurity to be a big ego trip, you're going to start seeing your insecurity in a different way. Now, obviously, if you tap in to your higher self, like the way I do in my past life regression sessions, where people actually start channeling their higher self after they see a past life or two, then you start aligning with the truth of your being, both the spirit level truth of your being and the life purpose of this incarnational personality, this thing that you're pretending to be for one lifetime only. And then, if you have a flaw, you don't implode because of it in shame. You just say, yeah, that's my flaw. And either my flaw is an authentic flaw, meaning, if you think you're too short or too tall or too whatever, then you just consider that is part of the role that you're playing in this lifetime. Like when I do past life regression, it's really funny when people see themselves as another race. I think I've mentioned that on other videos. And they're really like, wow, I'm that race, Also, when they see themselves not being human, that's another story. So, your insecurity is pure ego. Just sit there, and every time you feel insecure, just kind of say, yeah, my ego's feeling insecure right now. Just try that for a little while. Little thoughts like this. And when I do a session with people one-on-one, I kind of implant a lot of these kinds of different ways of looking at things. And these different ways of looking at things, it's like in the Matrix where they said it's like a virus, something like that, like a virus in your mind or something like that. I can't remember the exact line, but it's like it's something that just keeps going around and around in your mind, and it reorients things in the background. You kind of think of it semi-subconsciously throughout the day, throughout the week, the year, whatever. And it changes your orientation to things. If you just look at every time you feel really insecure, shy, whatever, just say, my ego's feeling this. And it's not a way to totally disengage, but it's a way to just notice. It's like somebody steps on your foot and you say, my foot hurts. And you realize your shoulders don't hurt, your other foot doesn't hurt, your head doesn't hurt. Like most of you doesn't hurt, your foot hurts. Well, most of you is not insecure because most of you is your spirit. And so the part that's insecure is the ego. And so just say, my ego's feeling really insecure. You don't have to tell anybody else. You don't have to shame yourself. You can just say it to yourself. Say, oh, look at that. Look at my ego being all insecure. Interesting. Try that. Leave a comment. Tell me how it works. Fight back with me. Tell me I'm all wrong. Let me explain myself in another video and argue against your point. Okay, thanks for watching. If you want more information on my work by phone, in person in LA, you can text me at 212-505-7729, or you can email me at andysway@yahoo.com. Check out my website, andysway.com. Thanks for watching. Bye.